putting the framework for all this stuff before I even start the process. I'm setting the benchmark. Because what have we all heard? We've got Sally, you cost more than Sally, Sally does more than payroll, why would we fire you and do Sally, whatever. I'm saying, it's a bigger picture, baby. I'm going to help you all the way up and down. Right? And they're like, all right, whatever. Right? So that's me going, bam, there's the gauntlet. Right? Bring it. And so usually, at this point, I do this, and this is something that I'll sometimes do. If I get any challenge at all or whatever, and they're like, I don't explain. Well, good, I'm going to explain it to you. Because what have I done? Talk about teaser. Talk about like, they're like, oh, bring it, buddy. And like they're starting to lean in because they're ready to go, right? Because I've just thrown it on the table for them. And sometimes they're like, what are you talking about or whatever. I'll be like, look, I'll tell an analogy. I'll say, look, guys, Mr. CFO, you just won $10 million in the lottery. Congratulations. $10 million. I said, you're going to interview financial planners. 2 of them come in. This lady right here, she's $15,000 a year to manage your $10 million. This lady over here, she's $115,000 a year to manage your $10 million. Which one do you hire? Conventional wisdom says $15,000 is cheaper than $115,000. Let's go with $15,000.
What's my knowledge?
The problem is, what the hell happens to your $10 million? Wrong number. Because if you gave me from $10 million to $10,100,000, and you get me from 10 to 12, who gives a shit about the $100,000 difference?
Right.
That's the difference between operational effectiveness and operational efficiency. The payroll HR department and invoices are right here. They're spending $100,000 a year on this combination of people and tools and vendors and technology. And maybe I'm more, maybe I'm less, who knows? But what they really need to be paying attention to is what happens to my $30 million labor number that's managed reactively by $30,000 employees on paper with no analytics or vision or anything into it and all the errors. That's a number, Mr. CFO, I'm telling you to think about, right? So you may not have to go into that, but sometimes I do, and I'll say, look, we're going to go here. And they're like, bullshit, show me. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I've got this thing. I'm going to stick these on the wall. So I'm going to go back to them. So here's how I'm going to, sometimes take that operational efficiency, effectiveness talk track and just hold on to it for a minute because you may not do it right off the bat. That thing right there throws a gauntlet down, gets them excited, makes them lean in, they're ready for battle, whatever. They're like, what is this for? What are you talking about, right? So now you set the stage. Remember, I just spent the last 15, 20, 30 minutes frameworking out their entire revenue strategy, their entire bottom line strategy. I know what they're doing, right? And so I'll say, I'm going to start at the top. Here's the thing. When you decide you're going to grow this business, there's only a certain number of ways that you can do it, and you've decided that this way, and this way is how you're going to do it. So think about this from commercial insight. Warmer, boom, warmer, reframe. The interesting thing about those revenue strategies is once you pick that revenue strategy or mix of revenue strategies for your business, there are implications to that. Let me show you something. Let's talk about your HR department for a minute. Let's just talk about your business. We know where we're going here. Anybody see this? Strategic. We're going to do M&A. We're going to start growing. We're going to add cookies. We're going to do a lemon grow. You're going to grow. When you buy that company, how are you going to make sure that those employees stay with you? How are you going to make sure that they understand your culture? How are you going to manage them? What about how you're strategically going to train them and communicate to them and make sure that you have the right people in the right places with M&A? How are you going to find people? How are you going to attract people? Strategic side of your business, because you're telling me these are your revenue strategies, you've got to manage the M&A process. You've got to attract talent. You've got to retain talent. You've got to identify a successor. You've got to make sure that your culture is intact. There's all these things you have to do in order to execute effectively on your strategy. Because you told me your people were important or whatever, right? But you've got to do those things. And a lot of times those things are, those wind up, a lot of that stuff is going to live with your HR department. And what I've seen is a lot of CEOs and the CFOs, they go out and hire a big fancy VP of HR. And guess what happens? That person keeps coming to them, and guess what they want? More toys, more people, more money. Why? Why? Is that happening to you? Why? You've got a posting right now for somebody. Let me tell you what happens. This is why you're in business. To grow and get bigger and make money. But there's another side of your business. And that's everything that happens to you because you're in business. Why you're in business is to grow. Because you're in business, you got to pay people. You got to process transactions. You got to have benefits and administer them. You've got to stay compliant. You've got to manage risk. You've got to do this and this and this and this and this. You've got to do COBRA administration. You've got to pay taxes. You've got to do all this different stuff. Mr. CFO, I've sat down with 250 organizations, and you know what I've found in the middle market is that when I look at the back office, people always talk about how they want strategic HR and this and that, and whatever. It almost doesn't exist. They talk about it, they want it, but let me tell you what happens. 90 to 95% of all your HR time is spent here. All your time, all your people, all your technology, all your money or whatever is spent on this transactional stuff. So a few people over here can be clever. And the reason is because this stuff cannibalizes that. If you got an hour left in your day and you have a choice between being COBRA compliant and doing a succession plan, what are you going to do? What's got teeth on it? So there's your top line, what's going to inhibit you from a top line perspective. So let's move on. So we agree that this, does everybody get this? Yes. So this is what's happening. You know what? I'm not asking you to believe me. Let me show you what I mean. Let me show you why they want more people, more toys, more things, more whatever, and why they're doing this transactional stuff and why it's happening to them. Let me give you a little peek into their world. Let's talk about your payroll HR.